Welcome back to another episode of Auburn Anonymous. I'm your host, Miles Espy. You can find me on Twitter at AshtonDanielsAA, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. Michael Espy. You can find him on Twitter at JacksonArnoldAA. First order of business before we jump into anything else. Michael, this past weekend I made the Sweet 16. What did you do this past weekend? Anything interesting?
Yeah, I made it to the Sweet 16, and I already made it to the Final Four as well. A lot of Auburn fans were complaining about the draw that we got going into the tournament, and having to play Louisville potentially at home seems scary. And I don't think a lot of people knew too much about Creighton, other than they finished second in the Big East, and they've had some good teams in the past. But I wasn't even at halftime. I was like, we have this game down. And, going into this weekend, I don't know if anyone other than, Ole Miss or Michigan State has a better draw than Auburn does right now. I think it's a pretty Michigan. I just don't think they match up well with us. Any team where Trey Donaldson, a guy who got cut from our team, is leading your team in minutes, I don't think we're too concerned there. And then you look at Ole Miss or Michigan State, who we're going to play the winner of. I think Michigan State, other than St. John's, was the worst 2 seed. I don't even think they're deserving of that 2 seed. And then we either play them or a team we've already beaten 3 times. So, I think Auburn's already a lock for the Final Four. I'm just, this week I'll be pulling for Florida to lose because that would be a matchup that does scare me. But, I'm pretty happy. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good too. So if you recall from the last episode, I said I was very worried about Michigan. And the more that it's kind of, now that it's come to fruition and it's kind of marinating and I've had time to think about it, I'm more and more comfortable with it. Michigan, the thing that does scare me a little bit is they have 2 really good big men. They start what's essentially 2 centers. Danny Wolf, who we all remember from Yale last year, who I guess is really kind of more like their power forward, even though he's large enough to be a center. He's a better ball handler, can shoot it a little bit, pretty good passer, but he's 7 foot. And then there's Vlad Golden over from was it FAU when they made the Final Four, and he's more. They're both giants, both easily can play center. He's also a 7-footer, but he's more your traditional, big strong guy who's going to plant up under the basket and that kind of thing. And they are kind of gimmicky in that sense, where they're starting 2 centers. And, it's an interesting matchup. We're going to have them well beat on the speed side of things. The size will have us beat there a little bit, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, okay. Well, they have those 2, and they have Will Cheddar, who's a pretty good big off the bench. But I'm also sitting here thinking, like, okay, well, we also have Janai and Cardwell. We have Chaney Johnson, and then we have other size. We have Turtle Hudson, who I know we're probably not going to play a ton, but if let's just say something happens and Cardwell gets 2 fouls within the first minute of the game, well, we have another piece that's played big minutes in big games before, who we don't have to worry about him going out there. So the more and more I look at it, the more comfortable I get. And then the guards, I love Trey Donaldson. He's great. But I'll take our guards over him. You're nodding. You're shaking your head.
I just don't think you can use the word great, but okay, he's solid.
No, okay, fair. I like Trey, and I know you do too, and appreciate what he did for Auburn, but he is like far and away their best guard, whereas if he was at Auburn, we don't know if he'd be starting or not. He might be starting, he might not be, but he'd be getting minutes, but he would I think he'd probably come off the bench and be like our 6th or 7th man, and he's their stud guard, and after that, there's a big drop-off. So I feel the more I've let it sit there, I think we have the bigs to go up with their 2 bigs, so I'm not too worried about it. I feel great about it.
Yeah, the difference between our guards and their guards is huge. They have Namari Burnett, who played at Alabama, wasn't a very good player for them. Trey Donaldson, he had his moments at Auburn, but like Aiden Holloway, a huge part of that loss we had against Yale at the end of the season, missing 2 late free throws to lose us that game. And he was, when I was looking at it, you had Aiden Holloway and Trey Donaldson. I thought we would return one of those guys coming into this year. And I'll be honest, I would have much preferred at that time to have Trey Donaldson back, just because he showed at some parts of the season that he was decent. Looking at it now, I think, Trey Donaldson could have maybe played that role we wanted Che PPEs to play as a backup point guard, but it ended up working out that didn't happen because now we have Tahad Pettiford. We were going to play at the shooting guard. I think he plays way better as a point guard. That's where he's going to make the money in the NBA. But yeah, I'm not too worried about that. And then we get the winner of Michigan State and Ole Miss. I mean,
give me Ole Miss. Give me Ole Miss a fourth time. I mean, I'll take Michigan State too, but
yeah, with the way they're playing right now too, I think it might be Ole Miss. That's my prediction right now.
It wouldn't shock me whatsoever. So kind of talking about how they're playing right now. There was a whole lot of basketball this past weekend and the end of last week. Anything stick out to you? Watch any good basketball these last few days outside of Auburn?
Yeah, it didn't seem like compared to past years that there were too many upsets. I don't believe any teams that were 13 seeds or higher lost. I can only think of one 12 seed off the top of my head that won, McNeese State, and they're out. I guess you had Colorado State. Were they?
I was going to correct you. Good job.
Yeah, and I guess they should have won against Maryland. They allowed Derek Queen to travel and score with 3 seconds left. But yeah, nothing really stuck out to me. Kind of a boring week of March Madness. It's the Power 4 schools that have all the teams remaining. You have one ACC team. You have 4 Big 10 teams, 4 Big 12 teams. So that makes, let's see, that's 4. Yeah, it's 9 right there, and then 7 SEC teams. Yeah. So, about what you would say coming into the tournament. The SEC, a lot of SEC fans are going to say, hey, look at us, we have 7 teams. We also had the most teams make the NCAA tournament and not make the Sweet 16. So it's however you want to look at it. I'm not one of the guys who tries to defend the SEC as being the best conference because I don't really care about the other teams in the SEC. I think some of the SEC is overrated, but Auburn's not. So I think we'll see.
Quite frankly, I hope they all lose.
Yeah, exactly.
I do.
Yeah, I was pulling against Florida, against UConn, just because, I see where Auburn's probably going to be in the Final Four, and I don't want to play the Florida Gators, who have, manhandled us at our home stadium. So I'll be pulling hard for Florida to lose this week. I'll be pulling, I guess I'll be pulling, part of me wants to pull against Alabama, but I would like to play them again, so I won't mind if Alabama wins. I'll be pulling against Duke. That would be a good revenge game, but I'd rather have an easier game against like Alabama or Tennessee or someone like that.
Fair enough. I get it. I guess the best games I watched this past week, I really didn't watch a ton. I saw, what was it, St. Mary's, who do they originally, Vanderbilt, where I watched that one kind of at work. We had that on the break room TV, and where Vanderbilt was kind of winning the whole game, and St. Mary's came roaring back to win. It would have been nice if they could have done that in their second game, but, whatever. But as you kind of mentioned, there really wasn't a whole lot of great games. The first night of the NCAA tournament, I did what probably every person listening would rather have been doing. I was at a Rascal Flatts concert up in Huntsville. Yeah.
How'd you get involved in that?
The wife asked me several months ago when I was in, a good mood or whatever. She's like, "Oh, Rascal Flatts concert. You want it?" My friend Megan, her husband's coming. Do you want to come? And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, why not?" Not realizing, but it all worked out.
Yeah, same here.
Fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I really hate to admit it, but now I'm at a point right now where I just have Rascal Flatts songs stuck in my head all day. So it's just like, Lord.
Sounds miserable. Yeah, I had a beach. I was at the beach this weekend, and kind of one of those things. It was my girlfriend's birthday, but when she asked me to go, I completely forgot that this was the first weekend of March Madness. And so, we were at dinners, we were on the beach during the day. So honestly, I didn't get to watch a lot of the games. I just made sure I got to watch the Auburn games.
Yeah. What beach were you at, Michael?
Fort Walton Beach.
What was the name of the Gulf you were at? That's what I'm getting at.
Gulf of Gulf of Mexico.
You nailed it. The
Gulf
of
you.
Mexico.
I
know. Well, I'm just joking with you, Michael. But yeah, I watched more Saturday and Sunday ball. Really, Sunday. Saturday I didn't watch a ton outside of Auburn. Auburn and Creighton, of course, where we dominated them for a whole second half, and then Sunday, I went to church and I get on my phone afterwards and I see UConn's beating Florida, and I go back and I'm UConn. They look great. Then with 2 minutes left, they crumble, And then, I very confidently am posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, that St. Mary's would beat Alabama, and I said that before the tournament started. And as we all noticed, that didn't come to fruition, and I was wrong, and I owned it. I put it on Twitter. Congratulations, Alabama fans.
Yeah, you had people in my DMs saying,
I did.
yeah. Someone DM'd me saying, I thought Randy Bennett was going to coach circles around Nate Oates. And I was like, yo, I had Alabama losing to BYU.
Well, it's your turn for that to happen. But yeah, well, I mean, St. Mary's, look, Alabama deserved to win the game. I'm not going to sit here and act like my prediction should have been right. But St. Mary's played pretty horribly that game. They didn't turn it over, but other than that, nothing really went well. They didn't shoot it particularly well. They didn't do a great job on defense. I mean, it is what it is. They didn't do great. So I will own it. I was wrong. Hashtag AA didn't know on that one. And Alabama fans will be surprised to hear I actually have them beating BYU to advance to the Elite Eight and play Duke. I think that'll be I know we love Auburn sports and that comes number one to us. But Alabama BYU is going to be a very fun basketball game. Two very good offenses. Alabama's going up and down, up and down. BYU, they play more of a moderate pace. They don't play slow, but they don't play super fast. But their offense has been really hot lately. So I think that'll be a really fun game. I think Alabama will ultimately prevail and move on to play an interesting game against Duke. So maybe that's a peace offering to all the Alabama fans who are looking at our videos.
I got BYU, and part of that reason, one, I think BYU is going to be one of the top programs in college basketball going forward in the NIL era. They got probably the most NIL money to spend. They have the number one player in the nation coming in this class, and AJ DeBasante, who would almost went to Auburn if it wasn't for NIL. And then we weren't. Rumors have it that he's getting paid $4 to $5 million, up to $7 million, but I believe the $4 to $5 million more for one season of play next year. They hired that coach from the Suns, who's one of the best up-and-coming coaches in college basketball. And one thing to watch for this game, BYU might have more depth than Alabama. And they have the better NBA pro prospect. And Richie Saunders is probably, he's a shooting guard, older guy. He's probably the best scorer in this game as well. And so I think both teams play the same style of play. There'll be a ton of three-point shots. So, I mean, it could go either way, but I actually think BYU is the more talented roster, and I think they have the better coach. So I think BYU will win this game. And, I think this will be the end of, Nate Oates has made it to 4 or 5 Sweet 16s, and I can't deny that's impressive, but he hasn't done much after the Sweet 16.
You are correct about that. You know why BYU's NIL collective is so strong, right?
I do not.
Yeah, it's because BYU has to pay its recruits a whole lot of money because when you commit to BYU, and I learned this from Mark Jennings, at Mark Jennings55, when you commit to BYU, you automatically become a Mormon. Something in the bylaws or something out there, but you automatically become a Mormon. I believe Mark said that applies to other, professional sports teams. Like he was talking about how Karl Malone's, huge Mormon. John Stockton's a Mormon. But yeah, that's one of the big things that I think that Nate Oates is concerned about for this upcoming game because, they're in the same town practicing, in the same arena as their opponent. And rumor has it is that when BYU has teams come to their home arena and they're practicing, they have pamphlets that they give out trying to get the other team to convert to Mormonism. And that's something that I think Nate Oates is concerned with going into this game, that he has players on his team that BYU might try to convert to Mormonism and then try to give them a whole lot of money to travel out to BYU and play for them. So that's something to keep in mind when the Tide hit the court this upcoming weekend in New Jersey.
So what are some other matchups you're looking at for this week?
Well, of course, the one that applies to us the most is going to be Ole Miss, Michigan State. I'm kind of with you. Part of me really thinks that Michigan State is going to fall to Ole Miss, and we're going to get to beat Ole Miss a 4th time, which is going to be awesome. And the thing is, if we play Ole Miss in the Elite Eight, we've already made the Final Four. I mean, there's not a chance those guys are going to beat us. I mean, we played them 3 times. Are you
Yeah, and Chris Beard is 0-6 versus Bruce Pearl. He's lost 2 last year, lost 3 this year, and apparently we played him once when he was at Texas Tech. I don't remember that, but apparently we did. lost again. So 0-6 versus Bruce Pearl. And I think Ole Miss is going to win as well. That's two straight 20-point wins against a North Carolina team, who looked like who looked like they had proved everyone wrong in that play-in game. Just absolutely demolished them. Iowa State, who had a couple injuries, and we both talked about that last week, as when we were doing our brackets on why we didn't have Iowa State going that far. I think Iowa State was a potential Final Four team if they could have stayed healthy all throughout the year. They just didn't seem to have a great big man either. But yeah, I got Ole Miss, and so who do you got? What else are you looking at? You want to
we can just
through?
run through. We can just run through all the games real quick and give our thoughts on it. I'll be honest. I think the Sweet 16 is going to be kind of boring too. Famous last words. It's going to be a ton of upsets now, but I think the real fun's going to come in the Elite Eight. But we can just run through it. We've already talked some about BYU, Alabama. I have Alabama. You have BYU.
Okay.
Next up, Florida and Maryland. Florida, is that fair to say?
I will say in my bracket I picked Maryland, but if I'm being completely honest, I was just looking for some upset picks to not have all one seeds in the Final Four, and I'm going to be picking, just as this game goes, I'm picking Florida to win the game. I'm going to change my pick. I'm going to redo my bracket, and I'll take Florida.
Yeah, you got to look at the new evidence. We have games, we have sample size, and we can change our minds. If Maryland can they should have lost to Colorado State. Let's call a spade a spade. Maryland should have lost to Colorado State.
And I'll say this.
Florida.
I'll say this.
And Florida nearly lost to UConn, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think the best front courts in the country are Auburn, Michigan, and Maryland. And I guess Florida probably after that. But if you look at what Maryland with Derek Queen, easy top 10 pick. I think top 5 pick. Very impressive freshman. You got him. You got Julian Reese, who's been in college basketball for a while now. But he's been a dominant college big man for the last couple of years. So with those two, I mean, that's going to be a tough matchup for Florida. But Maryland just doesn't have consistent guard play, so I'll take Florida.
You probably know this, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Do you know who Julian Reese's sister is?
Angel Reese?
Yeah.
No,
I did not know that either.
I did not know
I was
that.
watching them play Colorado State, and they said it. It was Angel Reese's brother. So, fun fact.
Yeah, she transferred from Maryland, so that makes complete sense.
I didn't know that about her either. So, yeah it's Angel Reese's brother. He's very good. Also a lefty. Duke, Arizona.
Yeah, give me Duke. I mean, Arizona's, they obviously had a rough start to the season. I think they were like 6-5, and everyone kind of ruled them out. Unless Caleb Love just has an absolutely crazy game. I'm impressed with Duke's defense more than their offense, and I could see Arizona winning it, but yeah, I'll take Duke.
Sure, there's absolutely a world where Arizona wins, but there's no way there's no way you can just pick them to win. I mean, Duke won at Arizona earlier this year. You may or may not know that, and it's a neutral court.
It will be interesting though. Arizona does have way more experience than this Duke roster, which everyone said this is the type of year where this plays a factor experience. So we'll see if it does.
Yeah, we will. That we will. Next up, and this is the last of the Thursday games, we have Arkansas and Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'll take Texas. I'll take Arkansas. I think it's kind of a 50-50 matchup. I think both of those teams don't have much depth at all. Arkansas is starting to get some of theirs back. And I remember saying this when we did this SEC preview. I said Arkansas, I had them at like 8th or 9th in the SEC, but I said they're going to be a team that I wouldn't want to play in March just because they have so much talent. It's taken them a while to get it all back together. They have their lottery pick, Boogie Flan, back. And Jonas Adu's finally started to put it together and playing like the Jonas Adu they thought they got out of the transfer portal. Give me Arkansas. And Adam, if Thero comes back, there's rumors he's going to be back as well. That's a scary team.
I was hoping this was going to be my upset pick and that you weren't going to pick it, but we're on it together. I also have Arkansas. I think they'll figure it out. The SEC's just been so strong. How can you pick against the SEC? Give me Arkansas to win. And very good news for you, Hogball Burner. We both have Arkansas beating Texas Tech, which means you've made the Elite Eight. Congratulations again, Hogball Burner.
We know he's watching right now.
He absolutely is. Moving on, we have Friday games now. First of which, you don't even really need to touch on it. Ole Miss, Michigan State. Ole Miss for me, Ole Miss for you. Just another thing, I'm picking the SEC team. I am out. I'm all else equal, for the most part, I'm picking the SEC team. I just think we're that much better, battle tested. I think Michigan State might be a little better than Ole Miss, but Ole Miss, they every week they play in the SEC, they're playing someone serious. Where Michigan State, some weeks they were, some they weren't. Anything else you have to add or no?
Yeah, give me Ole Miss.
Next up, you can kick this one off. Tennessee, Kentucky.
Give me Kentucky. Another upset pick. I'm pretty sure Kentucky's 2-0 versus Tennessee this season. Matchups are a big thing in basketball. It's not always about who's the better team and who the better records are. I just think Kentucky's a bad matchup for Tennessee, and I don't think Tennessee has really gotten it together offensively. They've been able to use their defense to beat teams, and they've played Kentucky twice, and they haven't been able to stop them. So give me Kentucky. Yeah.
I don't blame you. This one's tough. I'm going Tennessee. I'm going to go the opposite of you. Hard to beat good teams 3 times, and Kentucky, or excuse me, Tennessee, and Tennessee is a very good team. So beating them 3 times, Kentucky certainly can do it. They've looked really good lately. I thought they were going to lose to Illinois, and they won it pretty easily. But yeah, I just think that Tennessee's, I like picking defenses. Tennessee's got the better defense. Kentucky's got the better offense. Clash of styles. We'll see what happens. Should be a good one. Next up, second to last game before the Sweet 16 ends, Auburn, Michigan. I mean, of course, we both have Auburn in the Final Four. And last but not least, another pretty easy game, in my opinion, is Purdue against Houston.
Yeah, I think no, you didn't go to that Purdue game with me. It's always hard for me to pick teams when I go and watch Auburn play them and beat them by 30, and then it's hard for me to really, after I see that in person and watch a team do that to a team, it's hard for me to start backing them throughout the year. But hey, Purdue, I had them losing in the first round to High Point, and they've surprised me. I had them losing to High Point, so I'm definitely not going to have them beating Houston. If you ask me my title game prediction right now, I'm going to have to go with Auburn versus Houston.
We 100% align. I'm Auburn versus Houston. Purdue's look, I'm not counting Purdue out. It's kind of like Arizona Duke. I think Purdue has a real chance of winning this, but they've looked really good to start the NCAA tournament. But exactly as you said, let's remember who they've played. They played a 13 seed and a 12 seed, whereas Houston played a 16 seed, okay. Then they play Gonzaga, who's an 8 seed, but they're like top 10 in Ken Pom. I mean, Gonzaga is not your average 8 seed. So, yeah. I mean, the Gonzaga is every bit as good as Purdue, in my opinion. And, so I got to go Houston. Houston's been really hot lately. I mean, they lost a few games early, including to your team, Auburn. But
I hope I'm wrong. My ideal scenario is Auburn versus Michigan, Auburn versus Ole Miss, Auburn versus Arkansas, then Auburn versus Purdue. So
for the Final Four, anyone except for Florida.
Yeah.
That is just any of those other 4 teams. Works with me.
Yeah.
I'll take Florida, too. I mean, shoot, we got the revenge angle at it. Whatever. Give me Florida. If to be the best, you got to beat the best. So I wouldn't hate that either. But I feel really good that Auburn's at least going to make the Final Four this year. And that's very exciting stuff. Another piece of information that's come out. Portal info is coming out left and right with these teams getting eliminated. Players entering the portal, et cetera, et cetera. Any names that we need to be keeping our eye on? This is right up your alley.
Yeah. So, from the sources I've talked to, we go right back before basketball season. There were rumors that Auburn didn't have that much money for their NIL in basketball. And now I'm hearing quite the opposite. One, you got to think we have, I'm not going to say names, but you know who Auburn's biggest basketball donor most likely is, has an arena named after him, hint, hint. Not many people have a billionaire super fan. And so, from what I've heard, we have $7 to $8 million, $7 to $8 million prepared for the roster for this upcoming season. So I expect Auburn, unless they see value in a guy, they're not going to, they don't have to spend that $7 to $8 million. But if they find a guy they believe is undervalued, they'll take him. They take the guys they like. But I expect Auburn to be big spenders in this portal cycle. A lot of it depends on, from what I'm hearing, I think Chad Baker-Mazara is almost 100% going to be on this roster next year. I'm going to say Todd Fetterford's probably 50-50. I was listening to Jeff Teague talk about on his podcast just the other day. Jeff Teague has a podcast, and he was talking about how Tahad should go ahead and go to the NBA draft, and I was kind of scared when I listened to it. So I think he's about 50-50. I hope he comes back, but wouldn't be surprised if he left. And then Chaney Johnson. He's another guy who isn't being discussed much about coming back. I haven't heard much discussion about it. But apparently he's still waiting on that ruling for D2. We've lost Denver Jones, but I think there's a high chance we get Chaney Johnson back. And so it all depends on who comes back. But there's one thing we know that Auburn's going to spend money to get a center. And, last podcast we said, hey, we have a guy in mind. I still can't say the name of that guy. But I can say center from Iowa, Owen Freeman, who missed the last few games this year for them. I think he played in like 20 games, averaged 16.7 points per game and 6.7 rebounds. 6'10", guy could score the ball. Owen Freeman is setting up an official visit to come to Auburn. He has a visit set up to Creighton and Michigan as well. Obviously, we're still playing college basketball right now, so I don't know what that looks like. Auburn, probably needs to be recruiting in the portal, but it's hard to prepare and do both at the same time. So I don't really know how you set up a visit when you're preparing. You might not even be in town for the visit. So I don't know how we're going to go about that. We might have to wait till after the season is over if Owen Freeman's willing to wait that long. So I don't really know how you play that. But Owen Freeman will be visiting Auburn. Obviously, just waiting to see how the results of this weekend before he schedules his visit. But only player that has scheduled a visit. Another big time name you hear people talking about with Auburn is the other Bashir brother, and I really hope we get this guy. I think it would be awesome to have two twins on the team. I'm just worried that if we have Chad Baker-Mazara coming back, that we would recruit him super hard because, obviously we're going to have to spend NIL money on Chad Baker-Mazara. Mm-hmm. We're already spending NIL money on his twin, and those are two wings right there. So if we're thinking strategically, we already got two wings. Ideally we'll have Tahad and Chaney, and then we're going to have to spend money on a center. So if we are going to spend money in the transfer portal, I don't know how much money. He's going to cost a lot of money, and I just don't know if we're going to be willing to spend it for him to be potentially a bench player.
It would be nice. A couple things I want to follow up with you on. Did you say that I just haven't seen it yet? Has Denver Jones is he officially ruled that he can't come back another year?
Yeah, they ruled all. It's almost like they made this rule just for Denver Jones, but so apparently he was in junior college the 2020 to 2021 season, and for some reason they're not. He's already used a COVID year. Okay. They're like, if you already used a COVID year and you played junior college basketball for the 2020-2021 season, you don't have eligibility. And so I don't know if there's a single other player who qualified, but they've already came out and said that basically Denver Jones can't play college basketball next year.
Well, that sucks, but you got to draw the line somewhere, and I'm sure Denver will do great at whatever he does.
No.
Hey, one other thing that I did that I thought was kind of genius, and I wanted to see what you thought about it, was we have our good friends over at Crimson Crossover. For our listeners who don't know who they are, it's a group of Alabama fans who have a group where they talk with each other, that kind of thing, about college football, college basketball. They did a bracket challenge this year. First, second, and third place all wins a prize. It's perfectly free.
Okay.
Yeah, and the prizes are they have sponsors, which are Heat Pizza and J&J Apparel. Not going to lie, don't know what either of those are. But I'm like, this is a free group to join. First through third place all get a prize, and no one in this group, it's a group of Alabama fans. Maybe they're not all going to pick Alabama, but none of them are picking Auburn to win the national championship. So I was like, why not throw my bracket in the group with our friends over at Crimson Crossover? And if Auburn wins, I win a free gift card to Heat Pizza and J&J Apparel. Because, again, none of the other people in this group, maybe one or two others, are going to pick Auburn. So if Auburn wins the national championship, I'm guaranteed to get me some free swag thanks to our good friends over at Crimson Crossover.
Yeah, of course, the Alabama group picks the worst two possible gift cards you could think of to give rewards for, but not too surprising. Yeah. Did you see if you were the only one in that group who picked Auburn?
I think there was one other that I saw, but I was, hey, I'll take second. If that person beats me, I'll take. I think
Yeah.
second place is a $50 gift card for Heat Pizza and J&J. It doesn't even make sense because on the verbiage it says $50 gift card for Heat Pizza and J&J price pack. So maybe it's 50 to both or 25 to each. I don't know. I've never heard of those two things in my life, but assuming Auburn wins the national championship, I'm getting a gift card, so we can go check them out together. And I'm sure they definitely won't back out on it if they see Auburn Anonymous is the winner of their bracket group. That would I'm sure we'll get the gift cards. But anyways, something that I did that I thought was kind of funny and thought you might be interested in knowing. All right, so now moving on to football. Spring practice starts tomorrow, I believe. Michael, do you have anything you'd like to add? Any news with football?
Well, not too much. One, we had our pro day, our NFL pro day today, and we had some of the future great pros. Peyton Thorne was there. Keandre Lambert Smith, Rhoda Fairweather. I'm not. If you had to guess, who would be your highest draft pick of any of the guys currently that are trying to get drafted this year?
Highest draft pick. I mean, it's probably going to be some lineman that I'm not thinking of right now.
Yeah, all the linemen came back.
Yeah, if I was just thinking, I'd say Keandre Lambert Smith.
Yeah.
It probably won't be him, but that's just I haven't really kept up with who's in the draft and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's like really anyone knows. I'll go Eugene Asante. I have no idea he did get in the combine, but it's probably gonna be the Smith, Fairweather, or Asante.
Okay, well, I gave a good fair. Honestly, if I was an NFL team, I'd pick Fairweather before any of them. But that's just me.
Yeah, but anyway, one thing I did think was interesting is Keandre Lambert Smith was asked what he thought about Auburn's football team for next season. And he says he's been at Auburn. He's been training with the wide receivers, and he's been talking about. He said there's no other group of receivers in the country that are as talented as the ones Auburn has this year, and it's not even close. And we saw On3 and it was like PPF football. They put out the top 100 receivers for next year's football season, and Auburn was the only group with 2 in the top 10. And 2 in the top 6, really, with Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman. I've heard some rumors that Sam Turner, he was a 3 or 4 star guy that we signed this past class. I hear he's pushing Perry Thompson for his position. Apparently, he's way better than what they expected. So watch out for Sam Turner. You got Horatio Fields, a transfer from Wake Forest. You have, obviously, Malcolm Simmons and Eric Singleton kind of play the same position, but I'm sure we'll have packages where they're both on the field. But, yeah, this wide receiver room is going to be maybe the best we ever see at Auburn this year. There's, guaranteed two first or second round receivers in Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman. Those are 2 guys that'll go first or second round, and they're not playing college football for more than 3 years. And then you got potential NFL receivers and Perry Thompson, Horatio Fields, Sam Turner, Malcolm Simmons, who I think is another guy who could be a first or second rounder. This group of receivers really might be the best we've ever seen with Jackson Arnold. I think Auburn's offense is going to be absolutely electric this year.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, I kind of forget, I know our wide receiving room is going to be really good, but I hear you talking about it, and I'm like, we have 8 or 9 just dudes.
Yeah.
If Horatio Fields, I don't know, he might be our 5th or 6th best wide receiver this year. I don't know. He could be better. We'll see. But if that guy was on our team 4 years ago, he's wide receiver 1.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's wide, but that's just, we have an embarrassment of riches now, and it's a great feeling to have.
And we've returned every single starting offensive lineman except for Percy Lewis, who was terrible, and we added the number 1 offensive tackle in the transfer portal. I mean, this offensive line is going to be potentially the best. I think we have a top 3 offensive line room in the SEC, a top 3 receiver room in the SEC. Quarterback, honestly, is going to be up in the air. Running back room, I think it's being slept on too. Damari Alston and Jemiah Cobb. I mean, those are 2 guys who have more. They got to have more experience than almost every other running back room in the SEC. So, neither of them have done anything crazy, but they're experienced SEC running backs. So think this offense is absolutely stacked. The DB room is absolutely stacked. You look at Keldrick Falk, potential. I've seen mock drafts with him going in the top 10 next year. I think this team really has the chance to be special this season.
And with that, we'll move on from football and talk a little bit about Auburn baseball. I'm going to ask it even though I feel like I know the answer. How much baseball did you watch this past week?
I'm an honest guy. I didn't watch the game, but I did keep up with the scores. I saw. I know Auburn and Kentucky obviously had the series, and that was interesting because Auburn basketball was obviously playing in Lexington, so I thought that was cool how we had a lot of fans over there. For those, we usually don't have too many fans for away baseball games. And then I saw Tennessee was playing Alabama. Just saw that because Tennessee's number one in the country, and Alabama, I'm pretty sure they were undefeated going into that series. So, those are the two things I did keep up with. And I saw we're ranked number 11 in the new AP poll. So obviously we had a pretty good weekend. Tell me about it.
Yeah, we so this is a little different. It's D1 baseball is the one who decides the standings. Yeah. It's not AP because I don't think AP does anything, but but same thing. It's the one everyone looks at. Lost my train. Oh yeah. So this past weekend, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, really cool experience that the games at Kentucky were essentially a neutral field. I mean, it felt like on the television, it looked like there was just as many Auburn fans there as Kentucky fans, and from the videos I saw, very good weekend. I mean, you go and win on the road against a ranked SEC team, or any SEC team for that matter, and you win a series, you're doing something right. Kentucky's a very good baseball team, and Auburn, the first game, stuck out a close one. I'm not going to lie to you. You're an honest guy. I'm going to be an honest guy. I didn't watch a second of that first baseball game. I just didn't. I saw where Auburn won. Great, happy. The second baseball game I watched pretty closely. Auburn was kind of in control the whole game. I think we were up by 4, maybe 5 runs going into the ninth inning. Kentucky came back and tied it in the ninth, and they had a chance to walk it off after tying it. And I was like, oh, here we go. And then we somehow found a way to take it and win it, I believe, in 11 innings. So that was great. Then the last game kind of conflicted. As you know, I'm a dedicated parking team member at Church of the Highlands. And the game, for whatever reason, was moved from 1 o'clock Central Time to 10 a.m. Central Time. So that was just, I was watching it some while in the break room there. But I saw where Kentucky kind of jumped up 3 or 4-0, and then I was like, well, I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. We did lose the game, but something else that I saw was something else I saw from people reporting on social media was apparently like the ref kind of went on an ego trip and like threw out, tossed like an Auburn manager or assistant coach and an Auburn player for like doing a row sign in the dugout. Something that I thought was interesting. And I saw people saying I've watched college baseball for 20 years. This is the most egregious thing I've ever seen. So
that's funny.
I guess if you're Auburn, you can't have fun. Is what we're getting at.
That's funny.
Yeah. But this upcoming week, I think we play South Alabama at Riverwalk Stadium in Montgomery, where the Biscuits play. And then I believe we're traveling to Georgia. I forget if we're in Georgia or if it's home. I think it's in Athens to play the number 2 team in the country for a series. So if we could somehow get a series win there, we may crack. I mean, not may. We will crack the top 10. Yeah, it's in Athens. I mean, if we just win 1 there, it's probably not too bad. But going win 2, we're a top 10 team, and we're definitely in the driver's seat to host ourselves a regional and maybe even a super regional in a couple months.
Yeah, I'll definitely start watching more after basketball's over, and I'm sure that'll mean more games will be on TV too. I know they don't put too many college baseball games on, but the SEC network will start at least having 1 game a night. So
yeah. So that it'll start picking up, and I'll start watching more religiously too. But I've been watching where I can. Well, with that being said, we've kind of covered all our bases, crossed all our T's, and dotted all our I's for this week. Cannot wait to watch Auburn play in the Sweet 16. I can assure you that. I'm Ashton Daniels, AA. And this is Jackson Arnold, AA.
And AA knows.
AA knows.